welcome everyone. Thank you for attending. This presentation is going to be slightly different, I think, from some of the preceding things that we've seen. I really wanted to focus on... I was going to make a joke about how I speak too fast and the interpreter... Oh, sorry? Oh, okay. I could see the interpreters panicking at the back. That's okay. Go ahead. Okay, thank you. I'll do my best to try and speak slowly and minimize my accent. But welcome, everyone, again, thank you. I wanted to, first of all, thank FIDH for facilitating this presentation today. I wanted to focus on a kind of a practical innovation that we've been dealing with in ICCL, the Irish Council for Civil Liberties, over the past 24 months. Just to maybe, before we start, just to introduce the organisation. So, the Irish Council for Civil Liberties, we're Ireland's oldest human rights organisation. We've been around for 50 years. Next year is our 50th anniversary. So, we work across many different work streams, but I lead the work in democratic freedoms. I should have introduced myself, sorry, my name is Ronan Kennedy. My email is up there as well. But the initiative that we came up with about 2 years ago was called Rochtan, which is the Irish word, so the Irish language word for access. Previously, before I worked in ICCL and the NGO space in Ireland, I worked for a political party in Ireland. And I had noticed that while there was amazing policy work being done by many NGOs, grassroots, national level, all types, it wasn't being translated very effectively into political activity or political action. So, and I think we're all guilty of this to an extent. We can write, for example, a very interesting, very detailed, well-researched, for example, report on an issue that we're working on, or a thematic topic, or whatever it is, and 50 pages long. We send that in then to decision makers in the parliament or assembly or whatever it is, and they do nothing with it. They're not going to read, unfortunately, a 50-page report. We know this. So when I moved into the NGO space then, I wanted to do something that helped address this issue. Now, realistically, a lot of the larger NGOs, they can afford to pay privately for consultancy. They can afford to pay for advisors. They even, afford to pay for dedicated staff within their organizations to work on this. Most organizations don't have that kind of capacity or even have a need for someone to be working on this full time. So what we created then was Rochtan. Now, just to start off by saying, I realize that in the Irish context, we're coming at this from a very, very different perspective than many of the organizations here today. You know, Ireland is an open, relatively, well, no, it is a well-functioning democracy, but this is something that we've noticed in the past couple of years. This is an OECD report from it goes up to 2024, and it shows the stakeholder engagement in primary laws development. You might be surprised to see Ireland down here near the very end of the scale. There's what we describe in Ireland as an unhealthy neglect of NGOs. We're sort of left to our own devices. We're able to operate freely. We do our own thing, but the government consultation with us in the development of legislation policies is quite ad hoc. It's quite weak. It's not to say they prevent us from engaging with anything, but the structures to facilitate that really don't exist. We're sort of just left on our own, and it's almost a survival of the fittest, which naturally leads to very unequal outcomes then in terms of how people engage with parliamentary processes and policy development. This project sought to address that. So, we identified that there was a need there for support and training. And I should have said at the start, we're very grateful to our funders for this project, St. Stephen's Green Trust, who saw the value in this project and funded us for it. What we wanted to do, though, was not come at this with a, how would I describe it? We didn't want to sort of preempt what the training would look like or what the outcomes would be. We wanted to have an iterative co-design process with the organizations that we're going to be engaging in the training. ICCL is very well placed to be able to do this. We've got extensive networks with lots of Irish NGOs, umbrella organizations. We lead a number of coalitions that work on diverse topics like hate crime, civic space, all that kind of stuff. So we were able to devise a process or a consultation then, just a very simple online survey in conjunction with some trusted partners that we were able to send around then to our networks. And you can see we got, again, we're working in a very small context, there's less than 5 million people in Ireland. But we got quite a significant amount of responses from the two needs assessments that we put out. So, as I mentioned here, we not only wanted to look at what people wanted to learn about, but how they wanted to approach the training. We didn't want to come in with expectations about, we want to do X, Y, and Z, and that'll be fine. We wanted to listen to the people who would be engaging in the training. Oh, it's a little bit cut off there. But just to say, these are the survey findings. So we found that obviously support was needed, but people wanted, there was real emphasis that it should be accessible to all. So we didn't want to come at it from a perception that there was a kind of even a base understanding of how the political system in Ireland worked. It can be, the Irish system is quite strange in that, I can give you an example. A lot of the terminology in the Irish Parliament and in the public sphere is in the Irish language, but the vast majority of the day-to-day business is carried out in English. That can be quite confusing for new communities and migrants because not many of them speak Irish. So we really wanted to focus on including people from who are traditionally more distant from formal politics, so migrant groups, Irish travellers, Roma, those groups. The training needed to be responsive to feedback, not just the initial round of feedback. We designed an iterative training design. So after each training session, we conducted a survey and we noted the suggestions and we worked that into the following rounds of training. It needs to be flexible to the needs of participants. So I can give you an example on this. When we put in the pitch for the project, we envisioned that there would be in-person trainings around the country. We very quickly found out that that was not the preference of the participants. And that surprised me to an extent because I really thought that people would want to get in a room together. We tried one of them, it was fine, it didn't work particularly well. Most of the organizations that are involved in this, particularly at local grassroots level, this isn't their full-time job. They have actual day-to-day jobs that they do as well, and they work on community development, those kind of things in their spare time. So in order for the training to be as flexible as possible, we changed it to an online training, and we started recording them and putting them up online so people could access them after and kind of engage with them on their own schedule. This is the absolute key part though, and I really sort of cringe when I hear big organizations talk about capacity building. The emphasis, I think, not just for this project, but it's for so many things that we work on, needs to be capacity meeting. If there's a very large scale funder or someone like that that has resources, they have to meet the organization that they're dealing with in the space where they are. They have to come at them with, okay, we have these resources, we want to be able to assist you, what do you need to continue the work, to continue working in the way that you want, and how can we assist you with that, rather than saying, this is how we do things and we're going to teach you how to do it. It's kind of removing the hierarchical approach, which we really tried to emphasize. So that was, oh God, this didn't turn out very well. I did this on the plane on the way over. That was the first set there, was sort of how people wanted to engage in the training. This was the thematic things that people wanted that they wanted covered. So there was 4 broad areas. I'm sorry, this didn't come out very well. So first was understanding and navigating the political system, how to build influence and political relationships, how to design strategic advocacy campaigning around their causes, and then how to communicate that policy persuasively. That all then led to what we have here in the middle, so effective sustainable advocacy practice. So organizations would be able to take what they wanted from the training, apply it to their own context, use what was useful, discard what wasn't useful, and just essentially tailor this to their own needs. What was offered then? So this is the meat of what we actually delivered. So we delivered 6 online training modules for over 300 community and voluntary organizations on 3 topics. So the first was understanding the Irish political system and how legislation is made, effective political communications and advocacy, and then the third one we delivered with in conjunction with the Standards in Public Office Commission, and this was on lobbying requirements and transparency requirements when it came to lobbying politicians. That was the one piece. That was the kind of more structured piece where there was videos, there was templates developed. That's all available online. We developed a folder online, and anyone can access that now at any time. Aside from that, then we provided tailored one-to-one support for 17 organizations, for 17 national level organizations. So organizations came to us and said, this is what we're working on. How would we go about developing a communications plan? How would we go about influencing politicians on this thing that we're working on? We were able to deliver one-to-one trainings for free with all of those organizations to be able to situate them. As I said, there was a suite of training videos recording that were put online. We've contact lists for relevant MPs, parliamentary committees, some senior civil servants, those kind of things that people can just go to, get online. They don't have to spend time going searching for themselves. We had outreach training events with community groups. It was about 20-25 per session. Those were sort of adult education facilities who were interested, for example, in how the electoral system worked. So we decided to assist them as well. This was the one. Initially, we had hoped to have these ones in person, but as I said, the strong preference was for an online training with these, where we worked with it's called the Public Participation Network, which work at local authority level across the country, and we had very successful training with them. I think it's about 200 people were involved in that. And then on-call support service for organizations, so people could come to me directly with questions, they didn't need a tailored support plan. They just had a specific question about something. I was able to answer it, and that was it. So in that sense, we were able to deliver quite a bit. So this, as I mentioned earlier, this is what the iterative training design. We didn't want to develop a sort of a one and done, this is the training we're offering, and this is what it's going to look like, and it doesn't change. We really wanted to be responsive to the suggestions, the concerns, any of that was presented to us. So the training then was initially developed based on the data that we had from the surveys. We specifically, after each session, had an online survey asking people, look, be honest with us, what worked, what didn't work, what would you like to see, what would you like less of, what would you like more of? And we got some really good feedback from that. So we were able to adjust, the complexity of some of the topics. We were able to focus more on certain issues, focus less on others, and we were able to build that in constantly and be really responsive to people's needs. And then in terms of impact, we've been really, really very, very happy with the impact that we've seen so far. So the lighter blue here, sorry, where's the thing? This represents, there we go. The lighter blue is pre-training and the darker is post-training. You can see the impact here. So the confidence in knowing who to reach out to in the political system has gone up from just under 50% to over 80%. The understanding of how legislation is developed has gone up a similar amount, and you can see down here, I won't go through all of them. Confidence in finding information in the Oireachtas, the Irish Parliament database, overall understanding of the political system, engagement in political advocacy, and registered on lobbying.ie. We've seen an improvement in all of the indicators right across the spectrum. And this is just the same thing, just this shows the percentage increase in a little bit more kind of detail. Just want to finish up with a few caveats before we move into the questions. I mentioned at the start that I realized that the Irish context is very, very specific, okay? We're working with a very small population size, it's less than 5 million people. There's a lot of geographic concentration. Most organizations work at a national level, about 90% I'd say are based in Dublin. So it's much easier for us to engage with them. If this was going to be replicated by organizations outside of Ireland, it might work better at a regional political level rather than a national level, but it's very adaptable. We have a very open, centralised democracy. For better or worse, our local government is very weak in Ireland, but national government is it's quite centralised, but it's extremely accessible. Like, for example, you're never more than 1 or 2 people away, no matter who you are in the country, from say, a minister or something like that. Everyone knows everyone else. It's a very, very flat, non-hierarchical political system. So that really does help with this, this kind of support. The other thing I would say is our funder, St. Stephen's Green Trust, was very, very flexible and supportive of us experimenting with how we went about delivering the training. So, for example, I said at the start, initially we had budgeted for in-person trainings. We were told that wasn't actually preferential. So St. Stephen's Green Trust allowed us to change the funding, to change the approach, but also allowed us to redeploy some of the funding to purchase, for example, better audio-visual equipment that allowed us to develop to present the trainings better online. And also within ICCL itself, so I led this project and I was the one who pitched it, but with a very, very supportive senior management team within ICCL who understood the value of measures to assist allies and build resilience within civic space through better understanding of the political system. I think that was really, really important, and there was flexibility with work plans as well, that I was allowed to tailor my own work plan to be able to deliver this training inside my own work hours. So that's it for now. If there's any questions or people, I'm happy to answer. If people would like to access the folder that I mentioned with the training videos to kind of get a better sense of what we were offering, if you want to email me at ronan.kennedy@iccl.ie, I'm happy to answer. But thank you very much. If there's any questions, please go. Yes.
Okay, my question. Were you able to measure the impact beyond the training? Meaning, did you see specific groups advocating, be more visible? In which case, how did that impact in the longer term?
That's a really good question, and it's one that we haven't really been able to measure effectively just yet. So this funding was for a period of 18 months, and as a lot of us, anyone here working on policy will know, it takes a very long time to see specific results within legislative developments and things like that. So we haven't seen that kind of, it's a difficult one to measure as well. We haven't seen the longer term impact. What we can say, for example, I can give you a concrete example though. So in the middle of this process, there was a general election in Ireland in 2017, or sorry, not 2017, 2024, what year am I in? Sorry, in 2024. Of the 17 national organisations we assisted with developing policy plans and things like that, I'd say about 12 of them, we helped them structure and develop manifesto asks for each of the political parties. Many of these organisations had never done this before because they didn't have the capacity to do it. We were able to develop a template for them. So in that sense then, we were able to see, if we were to take, say, engagement in the general election process as an indicator of a kind of a higher level type of engagement, there has been an increase. Just to say as well, we are actually currently, fingers crossed, receiving a second round of funding to continue this and expand the work, and there will be an emphasis on that longer term measurement, as you say. But yeah.
Buen día a todas y todos nuevamente. Muy interesante la presentación. Entienden un poco las diferencias entre el contexto de Irlanda con el que pudiéramos tener en Colombia y en los países sudamericanos, pero básicamente tengo la sensación de que en Colombia se ha hecho a la inversa. En Colombia históricamente ha habido procesos de fortalecimiento de las capacidades para que las comunidades puedan acceder a la información y para que puedan acceder un poco a la incidencia para las transformaciones de los conflictos, especialmente medioambientales en el territorio. Y el principal reto que hemos tenido en Colombia ha sido precisamente poder poner en función de las transformaciones todo esto que hemos aprendido a través de las capacitaciones. Y aquí encontramos defensores, defensoras de derechos humanos, defensores y defensoras del medio ambiente, que conocen mucho, pero este es un estado totalmente capturado por las transnacionales, ¿cierto? Es un país supremamente capturado por la corrupción, que su historia está transversalizada por un conflicto armado, social y armado interno, muy fuerte, que de una u otra manera no permite, en el caso que ponían en la presentación de Irlanda, difícil, se puede medir el impacto de estas capacitaciones. Aquí es difícil medir el impacto no solo de las capacitaciones, sino de la acción de los defensores y defensoras de derechos humanos. Primero, porque hay una política de estigmatización muy fuerte del trabajo de los defensores y defensoras de derechos humanos. Segundo, porque es un trabajo que ha sido profundamente invisibilizado por el Estado y que las grandes transnacionales han puesto en función de sus intereses el conflicto armado interno que vivimos. Entonces, lo digo porque creo que esto es una experiencia que nos puede servir un poco desde mi perspectiva para entender hacia dónde transitar y para poder hacer una lectura distinta de cómo se fortalecen las capacidades de los defensores y defensoras de derechos humanos, poniéndolo un poco en el plano de la necesidad de hacer transformaciones profundas en el sistema, no solo democrático en el que vivimos, sino en el sistema económico en el que vivimos. Y hoy no podemos perder de vista, quienes estamos en estos ejercicios de defensa del medio ambiente, de defensa de los derechos humanos, la necesidad de incidir para una transformación profunda del modelo económico. Se han dado unos pasos importantes quienes hemos participado alrededor de estos escenarios que ha potenciado especialmente el Cajar en Colombia. Hemos sido muy conscientes de esa necesidad, de esa transformación, no solo del modelo económico, sino del modelo político, pero creo que hace parte también de un ejercicio al que se tiene que sumar la comunidad internacional y las organizaciones a nivel internacional para la acción, especialmente por Colombia, que hoy está, digamos, muy difícil de abordar este tema de la defensa de los derechos humanos y de los derechos medioambientales en nuestro país.
Thank you for that. Just maybe a very short response to that. And again, one thing that I will say, and I should have mentioned, oh, sorry. Yeah, thanks for that. I don't really have a very substantive response to what you say other than to say that I agree with everything you said. But again, one thing that I will just again mention about the Irish context that has assisted us with a lot of this work, and I should have mentioned it in the presentation as well, is that there's a lot of economic data that is mandated to be made public in Ireland. It has to be published by the government. There's a big effort on transparency, and that really does help our case and to be able to build our cases with respect to the advocacy campaigns we conduct. One thing that I will say, it can be frustrating sometimes, like anywhere, to engage with political systems, but I have to say the Irish Parliament, the parliamentary website in our context is really fantastic. It has full digital records of all debates. It has briefing documents for NGOs. It has videos of all parliamentary discussions going back to, like, all the debates go back to 1923, all the videos go back to 2002, I think. So it makes it very, very transparent, and there's a real integration then between statistical and economic data and political data. So we're able to say, for example, select a constituency that we're interested in working on. The Central Statistics Office are able to show us then what the unemployment level is there, what the median household income is, how people rely on transport to get to work, all of that kind of stuff. So it makes it very, very transparent, and it makes our job a lot easier. I appreciate that mightn't be the case in Colombia, but that real integration between data and the political system really has helped us. But I think it just reinforces how different our context is, unfortunately. Thank you, though. There's another question over there.
Yes. Thank you for your presentation. I'm Laurence. I come from the Quebec Civil Liberties Association, Union. We don't have a formal English name. That's why I'm confused in my own organization name. So it's very interesting. We, as the League, we often participate in the consultations about public policies in the lawmaking process. And we see from all the civil society organization different levels of knowledge of how this works and how to properly participate. So I think it's very interesting. It kind of gives me ideas of things that we could do. But also in Quebec, we are facing deterioration of the democratic processes in the last couple of years. So we talk about acceleration of the lawmaking process, very limited, only for people who are invited. The deadlines are shorter and shorter, and often groups come in with very documented and serious concerns, and they're not even listened to. So I was wondering, in that training that you created, if some criticism about the process, as it is in Ireland, maybe it's different, but do you include reflection about the flaws and the obstacles of the process itself, or you provide a kind of neutral training and then people can make their own idea of like how it's still limited in the reality or so?
Yeah, that's a really good point. So that is something that we have taken into consideration with this. Now, the training itself, I would say, is more of the neutral kind of approach that we described as like, here's how things work. There's a theory of how it should work, and then there's the reality of how it does work. But there's the broader picture then of like, some of the things that you've mentioned do happen in the Irish context. For example, short deadlines. Some parliamentary committees are very select about who they invite in. They mightn't be particularly transparent about what they're running consultations on. What I will say is that we have, as a kind of a follow-on from this, as a separate piece of work, we put together an open letter to the parliamentary, how do you describe it in English? The sort of steering group for the overall parliamentary, the Houses of Parliament, basically, and there's a working group then of each of the parliamentary committee chairs. We wrote an open letter to them describing a lot of the problems that you outlined there, saying, look, we realise that we're working in an open democracy, things are worse elsewhere, but here are all the problems that we see. Will you engage with us, and how to make that better? And I have to say the response has actually been I've been pleasantly surprised. We had a meeting about 3 weeks ago with it's called the Houses of the Oireachtas Commission, so the House of Parliament Commission, and they are very open to hearing about our sort of the issues that we've faced, how they can improve, how they can listen to us. I don't know if it's the same in Quebec, but I've heard a lot of people say a kind of a version of this. When it comes to dealing with parliaments and state bodies in general, we play a game called, is it incompetence or malice? Like, are they deliberately trying to screw us over, or are they just too stupid to realize what they're doing? Often it's that they don't realize what's happening. And in our experience, if we bring things to them in a constructive way and show how things can be improved, for example, we always point to the Estonian example. In Estonia, their parliamentary system for legislative development is probably the best in the world. It's about 90% done online. It's open to inputs from citizens. It works really, really well. So if we came in with that kind of constructive approach, and we were well received. I don't know if that would work in the Quebecois context, but it's something worth trying, I would say. Yep. Time for one more question. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I don't want to come in between transition to the next round. Sorry, yes. So I'm happy to have this conversation outside.
Yeah.
But just very quickly, 2 questions. Fascinating. Sorry, yes. I'm Sajjad Hassan. I represent a group called the South Asia Justice Campaign, mostly focused on India, but also the South Asia region. So everything you said is very relevant to our context as well. But I had just 2 short questions. One is, do you have a sense of the uptake amongst political parties for this tool? Now, of course, assuming that they see poor stakeholder engagement or weak engagement as a problem that needs to be addressed.
Just very quickly on that one, the short answer on that is no. We haven't approached we've deliberately didn't approach political parties about this because we didn't want to create the impression that this was sort of a civil society kind of scheme to sort of, they're all coming together and they're conspiring against us. It was more, look, we're giving you the information, you go and do what you want with it. And if politicians start seeing similarly formatted emails or language or something like that, then whatever, but we deliberately took the decision not to engage with political parties for that reason. Okay.
All right, okay. I'll keep it very short. So thanks for that. Now, populist politics has found an answer to the poor stakeholder engagement problem, right? They deal directly with electors, the constituents, etc. And populist politics is becoming much more of a norm than an exception. So I was wondering if your tool might have an answer, especially to the problem of marginalized groups in context of populist politics, not having access. Thank you.
No, that's a really good question, and it slightly relates to another piece of work that we've conducted in ICCL about, and this was another thing that I was considering presenting at here, but the phenomenon of self-censorship in organizations who are in receipt of state funding to do their work, where, you know, there's, thankfully, touch wood, we haven't seen too much of this in Ireland, but that kind of narrative about NGOs are, you know, controlling the government and they're unelected and all this sort of thing. We haven't seen so much of that, but I do agree with you that this has the potential to be a tool to undermine some of that rhetoric, because it allows, it provides a space for NGOs to come together and devise a common narrative about how we are important, not just for the development of legislation, but for the maintenance of democracy more generally. I think we just haven't had the capacity to be able to kind of go down that road, and frankly the need yet, thankfully, but it is something maybe that this could be devised and developed to accommodate. Yeah. Thanks everyone.
Very good.